Yesterday, a woman asked me if a phone case could send text messages without the need to buy a phone. What is the dumbest, most clueless customer you have ever dealt with? I work in customer service for a cell phone company, so every day I hear the dumbest customer I've ever heard. But a good one was when a customer called complaining about international numbers calling and soliciting her. I asked what the number was and she gave me a standard 10-digit number. I asked why she thought it was international, to which she said because the caller it says it's coming from the District of Columbia. When I was working internet tech support, I had a customer call us up because his net wasn't working. He said he hooked everything up but the dang thing just won't let me email. He then said the cable you sent me was too dang big. I told him that shouldn't be the case, and he said he had to resize it to make it fit into his computer. After a little more questioning, I found out he just took the box that had his network card, his modem, and most importantly that CD with a huge red sticker on it that says run this first before setting up equipment, and chucked all that stuff aside. He then took out the Ethernet cable, tried to plug it into his 56k modem. When it didn't fit, he took a knife and carved it down to make it fit. I just kind of sat there as he was furious because his service didn't work and we sent him useless equipment. When he finally let me get a word in, I told him he was supposed to run the CD and use all of that other equipment. He said he didn't want the service anymore and told us to cancel it, but I told him he signed a contract and I could set up an appointment for him for a technician to come out. He wasn't interested. I hated that job sometimes. He took a knife and carved it down to make it fit. Cringe. I didn't have to deal with it, but it was amusing listening to a waiter at an IHOP try to explain to a customer why they couldn't order never-ending pancakes to go. Just give me 10 or 15. I have been a waiter for years, but by far the stupidest thing I've ever had happen to me at work happened when I was just starting out. I was waiting on a family of 4 and they all ordered ice waters. I brought them their drinks and then a few minutes later the mom waves me over. She says the outside of my glass is wet. I stare at it and see the beads of condensation on the outside of the glass. Yeah, it's called condensation. It's what happens when you have ice water in a room temperature glass. She stares at me like I'm a freaking alien. And then I realized that this was my future as a waiter, dealing with freaking idiots. I took her drink and wiped it off with a towel and handed it back to her. I worked at a help desk. One time a lady called in complaining she charged her internet all night, and now it won't work once she unplugged it from the modem. I work in the maintenance department of a large hotel in Ohio. Have had a guest flip out because her room did not have a TV. I told her to turn around. She spun in a circle. No lie. I then told her to face the exact opposite direction from where she was and look onto the wall above the fireplace. She did and said, "Oh, I thought that was one of those fancy digital picture frames." Thank you for calling Starbucks. This is Jeff. How can I help you? Yes. Where are you located? We're at the corner of Main and Magnolia. And where is that? Do you know where Main Street is? Yes. Do you know where Magnolia Avenue is? Yes. That's where we are. Well, I'm standing at that intersection and I can't find your store. Is it underground or something? Looks out the window and sees a woman who looks lost. Mom, turn to your left. Do you see a man in a green apron waving at you? Begins waving at her. Yes. That man is inside a Starbucks. Go there. That's not Starbucks. That's Quiznos. Mom, I'm very confident I'm in a Starbucks right now. You're not very helpful. Click. I worked at a Stop and Shop in the produce department part-time for a few years. There was a kid in there named Bobby who sold drugs but had a really good sense of humor. One day we get a call from a customer saying she found a spider in her grapes. He handles it properly and explains that sometimes bugs do come in on the fruit and that he was sorry that happened. She however says that she's bringing it in so we can test whether it's poisonous or not. Problem is, we don't do that. It's a bug. Kill it. She comes in 45 minutes later with a spider in a Tupperware container and starts asking me what we're going to do with it. As I'm backpedaling my way through the conversation, Bobby walks up saying, "Oh, you're the spider lady." He grabs the container and notes how big the spider is, which freaks her out a little bit. She asks him what we are going to do with it, and with the most serious tone on he just says probably going to shake him up and see if he'll fight the other ones we have out back. Then he just walks away. Lady went apeshit on me. I LOL'd. That's it. Best response ever. I work for a bank, and customers will sometimes call to ask how they can access their account online and do online banking. I told this older woman to go to bankname.com. She started yelling and cursing at me that I made her go into her email and that she can't believe I'm reading her emails. I tried explaining to her that I can't see her computer as we're talking over the phone, and she probably just got into her email because it was her homepage or the last page she viewed. She wanted nothing of it. No matter how many times I kept asking her to find the address bar and type bankname.com, she said that it kept bringing her back to her email. The conversation lasted 45 minutes. She was yelling the entire time. I pretty much wanted to shoot myself in the head. Back in college, I worked over the summer for a tour bus company in Washington, D.C. While driving past the Washington Monument, a woman asked me how do they get all the flags to fly in the same direction? We had to call the Department of Wind and put in a direction request. Working in hotels, I have met quite a few dim bulbs. One night a woman stormed into the lobby screaming about how our parking garage did not have enough clearance for her jacked up Hummer. I explained that there is uncovered parking across the street, and if a Hummer did not fit in the garage, she could park there. She got irate about how it was unsafe and demanded this is a direct quote, go outside and raise the parking structure with a stick or something. I politely explained that was physically impossible for me to do, and she said, well, then you shouldn't be working with people. I worked Geek Squad once and a customer told me his iPod gave his Jeep a virus and that's why he was having engine trouble now. What is this? I don't even. In high school I worked at a local hardware store. We also refilled propane tanks for gas grills. After a summer or two of doing 10 or more tanks a day, you get good at guesstimating how full a tank is just by picking it up. One particularly hot day a customer comes in and sets his tank down next to me and asks for a fill up. I pick up the tank and inform him that the tank is full and does not need a fill up. He looks pretty agitated already with this short exchange and says that he checked that it was empty and would I just fill it up. To this, I inquired how he checked. There are several ways to check, one being by the weight of the tank. Another is the thermal strip on the side, which his tank did not have. The other is to pour hot water down the side and feel where it gets cold. His reply assured me that this was one blithering idiot lucky to be alive. He said he checked it by holding his cigarette lighter in front of the valve and opening it. To this I replied, you ought to write to your congressman and representative because they saved your life today. This tank has an OPD safety valve on it that prevents the gas from coming out without anything attached. He walked out without another word and with a very red face. I once had a customer bring back a laptop she bought the day before claiming it was broken. She said it wouldn't open. I asked her if it was Windows not loading up or a program not opening. She said the laptop itself wouldn't physically open. I took it out of the box, opened it up and just looked at her. Her mouth fell open. She looked at me and said, oh, it opens that side. Me and my sister tried for an hour to open it up last night and couldn't. She had been trying to open it from the hinge side. I work at the Philadelphia Zoo. One day I was carrying a chicken to the exercise yard. A man was eagerly following me waiting to see what animal I had inside the carrier. The chicken was reluctant to leave her carrier at first, and when she finally exited the carrier I said, good bird. Then the man asked me, why are you calling it a bird if it's a chicken? I didn't know how to respond without making him sound like a moron. Don't worry, sir. She just thinks she's a bird, so we humor her. My friend works customer service at Canadian Tire. The other day someone tried to return a flashlight, claiming it wouldn't light up. My friend looked down at the flashlight. It was a hose nozzle. Canadian Tire actually smells like you're inside a big tire. I saw an outraged piece of white trash storm into my local AT&T store as I was shopping. She ran up to the counter and screamed at the salesman for selling her a defective iPhone. She said that she had only used it for 2 days without charging when it suddenly shut off. She plugged it up, even hit it against her table, but nothing would make it turn back on. The salesman smiled, took the phone, held down the lock button, and the iPhone turned on. The lady flipped him off and ran out. I can't believe she managed to use an iPhone for 2 whole days without having to charge it. Once, while working in the travel section of a bookstore, a customer asked for a globe of Britain. I got a lot of daft requests, but that floored me. I worked as a lifeguard at a public pool last summer. We had a strict no water wings policy. Those little suckers are death traps. So this woman is putting water wings on her kid next to the pool, and I politely inform her that we do not allow water wings and have life vests available for free literally 5 feet from where she's standing. She becomes so infuriated that I would dare to dictate how she treats her child and tons of other crap. So I call my supervisor over, and as he arrives and is speaking to her, the kid jumps in the pool. Water wings slip up his arms, and he's suspended underwater. Jump in and pull him out. Woman is furious that I would have the nerve to touch her child. How dare I? TLDR. Saved a kid's butt cause his mom thought water wings were safe. TLDR. Being a lifeguard does not give me the permission to make physical contact with another. This is the news at 10. Top story. Pool fatalities goes up as lifeguards are no longer allowed to make physical contact with an individual. They may however provide words of encouragement. Customer. My computer doesn't work. Me. Is the monitor on? Customer. Of course. Me. What color is the power button on the monitor? Customer. Black. Me. Can you press the power button on the monitor? Customer hangs up. This is why I am convinced we need a troubleshooting 101 course in high school. I never read instruction manuals for anything, but I'm savvy enough to know that if it's not working, 9 times out of 10, it's something I did, not a product defect. When working as an EMT, I had a patient, client, customer, whatever, call 911 because he couldn't burp at 3 AM. We arrived to find a male in his 40s who was very upset that he ate a bowl full of cucumbers and had not burped yet, and it's been over 20 minutes. I always burp when I eat cucumbers. Always. I tried nicely to talk him out of being transported, patted him on the back and all that. Nothing. He insisted on going to the hospital, and according to state protocols, I took him. Man oh man, was the staff P. Complete waste of resources. I'm not a nurse, but after chipping a bone in my foot, I was sitting in the Pacta. There's a woman sitting next to me. I'm in a wheelchair, and she asked what I did. I told her and she said she was there for an ingrown toenail. It was completely ridiculous. People did that all the time. I can think of 2 from my time at working at Petco. I had a guy ask if we sold condoms for dogs. While I somehow managed to explain that we didn't with a straight face, I really wanted to ask him who would have been rolling M on if we did. The second was a lady who called saying that her Labrador was throwing up blood. And do you guys sell a pill that stops this? I gave into the undisciplined side of my head and irritatedly responded that if her child was throwing up blood, she probably wouldn't be going to Walgreens to find a drug for it. She'd be going to the doctors, and she should probably do the same for her dog. That job scared me with the amount of people that were totally clueless on how to raise animals and yet had small children. When working at Walmart Electronics around 8 years ago, I dealt with a sudden torrent of people returning wireless products. They were furious that these devices needed to be plugged in to charge. I had customers insisting that the other employees said their phone keyboard controller etc. would absorb electricity from sockets as they walked around the house. We had to put up wireless devices do not charge wirelessly signs around the entire department. My mom wanted blueberry with teeth for Christmas last year. It's a sad state that I knew what she was talking about. Blackberry, Bluetooth. Not mine, but a friend told this story in college, and it always amused me. She worked in a camera store, and this was the early 90s, so pre-digital camera era. This woman comes in, wanting to get some photos developed. She hands my friend the whole camera. Not unusual. Apparently a lot of people didn't know how to get the film out after they were done with a roll, so this part wasn't uncommon. My friend examined the camera, and, my friend, Mom, there's no film in here. Woman, that's okay. I still took the pictures. My friend, but there's no film in the camera. Woman, I know, but I took the pictures anyway, so please get them out. My friend, but, you would have to have had film in the camera first. Woman, it doesn't matter. I press the button. There are pictures in there. Please get them out. And so on. For quite some time. It ended with the woman storming off, convinced my friend was incompetent. I still use a film camera and I think it's hilarious when, mostly, Kids become confused and aggravated that I won't show them a picture immediately after I've taken it. Worked at EB Games when I was 18. In a city in Canada known for its rednecks, a man in his 40s came in and spent at least 3 hours browsing every single title on the wall. He refused my help several times and eventually came up to the counter with 5 brand new games on almost every system we carried. After ringing in his selection of Cabela's hunting, NASCAR racing and UFC fighting, he paid and left. Several hours later the man returns. He throws open the front door, it was a standalone store, and yells, "What kind of crap show are you running here?" He is red in the face and stomps towards me and throws his bag of games onto the counter. "None of these work. This is a crap store. What kind of business?" Man rants and yells at me for a minute or so before he decides to take a breath. I asked him, "You tried the games in your Xbox, PC and PlayStation and none of them worked?" His reply, "I just got that new player from Walmart this afternoon and none of these games work." Of course, he doesn't know the name of the disc player that he bought was. After several painful minutes and him showing me the Walmart receipt out of his pocket, he bought a DVD player. TLDR. Man buys video games from me and tries to play them in his DVD player. Screams at me for 20 minutes because it doesn't work. I used to work at Radio Shack and I had a lady come in and ask for a radio capable of getting broadcasts from the Middle East. I showed her a few. She purchased it and asked me to help her tune it. I found some stations from various Middle Eastern sources, tuned them as she stood there with this puzzled look on her face. I asked what was wrong and she looked at me with this seriously grim expression and said, "How am I supposed to track terrorists if they don't speak American?" Without speaking, I refunded her money and went on the only smoke break I've ever taken. I don't smoke, so I just ate French fries. Worked in an ice cream parlor. A woman asks for a chocolate ice cream. I ask if that's scoop or soft serve and she says scoop. I give her the scoop ice cream and she says no, I meant the other chocolate ice cream. We had one of those soft serve machines that produced different flavors. So I pointed to the photo of the chocolate serve on the machine to confirm and she again nodded. When I handed it to her she got really angry and yelled, "Are you stupid? That's not what I wanted." After much confusion it turned out that by chocolate ice cream she meant vanilla soft serve with chocolate sprinkles. She snatched the correct order out of my hands and flounced out in disgust. Flouncing is really the only way she could leave that situation. I work in a grocery store. We once had a sale on a big thing of fresh chicken. The wings were $9.90 and the breasts were $9.95. Weird pricing, I know, but the signs clearly labeled them correctly. There was also a display for close-dated chicken that was $3 off, and these were also clearly labeled. This jackass guy comes up to my register with 3 chicken packages and throws them down on the belt. I smile and say hello, and he says, "How come you're charging me more for some chicken than the others?" I tell him because the chicken with the red label is close dated, and management needs to sell it quickly, therefore making it cheaper. He then started getting more aggressive. "Why in the heck did you put out bad chicken? You a retard or something?" At this point, I'm a little shocked, but I grab the chicken and ring it up. "Now wait a minute, I never said I wanted that chicken you're trying to poison me with." I ignore him, void the chicken off the transaction, and ask him if he needs help with anything. He retorts, "Yeah, you dumbass. Ring up my chicken." I'm starting to lose it a little, but I grab the first package of chicken, which happens to be close dated, and scan it. I look up and he's giving me the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I grab the second package, the $9.90 wings, and scan it. Immediately, "You overcharged me." I show him the sign and the label, but he still rants on about me overcharging him. Ready to get this guy out of my hair, I grab the last package of chicken, the $9.95 breasts, and scan it. Shockingly enough, he thinks I'm making a conscious effort to rip him off. Yet again, "You freaking kike. Who do you think you are, stealing my money like that?" After a solid 45 seconds of screaming, he finally pays the total and storms out. The story doesn't end there, however, as he returned the next day. My dad is a manager, and he swung a pretty nice deal on gallons of Simply lemonade. He bought an incredible amount of lemonade and put them for sale at $1. Still in a bad mood from the night before, I'm pee when I see him strut up to my register. He throws the gallon of lemonade on the belt and gives me the glare. I make sure not to greet him this time. I scan the lemonade and tell him the total, $1.07. As you might expect, you overcharged me. I reply, no, I didn't. He goes on to tell me I'm a dumbass, as the sign says $1. I have to explain to him that his total is $1.07, because juice is taxable unless it has more than 70% fruit juice, and simply lemonade is only 11% lemonade. His reply, you're retard. You're the reason this country is going down the shitter. I don't want your dang lemonade. He proceeded to grab the bottle and throw it at a display of paper towels nearby, causing quite a mess. He stormed out, screaming, I'm never spending a dime here again. TLDR. People are jackasses, and customer service positions suck. This happened just the other day. Two middle-aged women come up to my counter and order their drinks. After ringing them up, I tell them their total and they tell me that they're going to wait for their friend to pay. Perfectly fine. I tell them their drinks will be waiting for them when they're ready. I finish making their order pretty quick and place their drinks by the register. 5 minutes pass and they come up asking if their drinks are done yet. I said yes. Just been waiting for them to pay, and they proceed to flip out saying how they were just planning on coming back and paying with their friend. So essentially they wanted me to give them free drinks and trust that they'd come back to pay. I do not think so. Crazy eye patch lady and company. I do not think so. They sound like a couple of sneaky pirates to me. Back in my Best Buy days, a woman came in complaining that her iPod had a virus. I turn it on and it's working fine. She says it only appears when she connects it to her PC, so I hook it up to our machine. It connects, and the do not disconnect message appears, complete with red no symbol. There, that's the virus. What does that mean? It means your iPod only has 7 more days to live. It has eye cancer. I'm so sorry. Old person. My cable isn't working. Your service sucks. Me. I'm sorry to hear that. Is the cable box turned on? Old. It won't turn on. We've lost power. Me. It's not going to work without power. I'm sorry. Old. Because your service sucks. Someone in the thread mentioned the plasma truck to come out and refill the TV. I've had an older woman refuse to buy or even possibly look at plasma TV because she didn't want that gas in her house killing her grandbabies. I used to work at an insurance agency. A guy came in for a quote on auto insurance, and let's say it came out to $300. Don't remember the exact numbers. He said he'd think about. I told him the quote was only good for 30 days and if he came in after that I'd have to run his information again, and he said that was fine. Well, he came back and it had been more than 30 days, so I had to redo the quote. This time it was $250. He was furious. This isn't what you told me before. I calmly said, sir, I told you before rates can only be guaranteed for 30 days. Also, this is lower than your last quote. Guy, no, it isn't. Sir, this one is $250, and the last one was $300, so this one is lower. Guy, no, it's not. At that point I knew I had lost the argument. If a man refuses to acknowledge that one number is greater than another, there is simply nothing more I can do. I just kind of looked at him, dumbstruck, until he walked out angrily. TLDR. Man refused to admit 300 is greater than 250. Sounds like a proud graduate of Verizon Math School. A woman once asked me to combine 2 different styles of mylar balloons, a star one and a zebra one specifically, and make her a God bless your home balloon in the back. Florists don't make balloons. This is the same woman who refused to accept, and didn't understand, the concept of sales tax. She must have been from Oregon. I shouldn't make fun of my own father, but yesterday he said he likes the internet with the news sites, but he would also like to be able to have the internet where he can shop. Well, we can get the cable with the sitcoms, but not the sports. I can see where he's coming from. Not a customer but a lady I almost worked for said this. Many moons ago I was called by a lady who owned a repair shop for TVs and home appliances. So she wanted to add PC repairs to her services. She contacts me and offers me 50% of the charged price, and since I wasn't working much at the moment I agreed. She calls me to the first service and wanted to be there for the first repair to see how I treated the client. So we are at the client's home, And this is where it all starts. I ask her what's the problem and the lady tells me the PC doesn't turn on. So I sit next to it, switch the on button and it turns on. She then says it turns off after a while, so I check to see what antivirus it had, etc. Then I hear her go to the kitchen with the PC owner and she tells her her microwave wasn't heating the food. She opens it and sees it's a bit scratched and proceeds to say the stupidest thing I have heard. Well, since it's all scratched up, the lasers can't bounce off the walls and that's why it's not heating up. I facepalmed so hard. Then the comedy gold came. The 7-year-old kid that was there with the owner of the house said, "Microwaves don't work with lasers." She then proceeds to argue with the kid, making up stuff. Finally the kid comes to the PC, politely asks me if he could use the PC for a second, goes into Wikipedia, looks for microwave oven and prints it. Before the kid showed her the article, I simply stood up, called the lady up and said there was nothing wrong with the PC and left. I never worked with that lady again. TLDR. Lady says microwaves heat food with lasers. 7-year-old kid calls her bluff with a printed Wikipedia article. I leave before they add me to the stupidest argument I have heard. 7-year-old kid becomes my hero. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.